Hi, this is Corella Ficklin at CorellaFicklin.com and WelcomeNetwork.com and Welcome.com. I'm going right into the subjunctive because I've been talking about other things when I'm supposed to be talking about the subjunctive. Okay, so we talked about long live the king, may he live forever. I hope that he be a good king. I wish that it rain. If I were you, if I were rich, if I had $1 million, if I could speak 1,000 different languages. Okay, so this is a subjunctive in English, but a lot of times we don't recognize it. I'm speaking basically about speakers of American English. I don't know. Maybe in Britain they are, in Australia or in South Africa or in Jamaica, because I heard the school system in Jamaica is pretty good, or in the Bahamas or in Bermuda or in Canada. They recognize it much better. But a lot of English speakers of American English don't recognize it. A lot of times if someone says, if I were you, or if they even say if I was you, which sounds horrible to me, but it's said, it's spoken, and who am I to judge? But it's correct now to say if I was you. You can say if I were you, I was you. And you say, well, what tense is that? That's the past. And you say, but it's not the past, because you've never been me. If I had $1 million, but you've never had $1 million, and the past talks about something that happened. Now there's the simple past, there's the past perfect, there's the past perfect conditional. Okay, but none of this ever happened. Well, in Spanish they use the subjunctive a lot, and the people, generally speaking, recognize it as a different tense, as a different mood, I should say, as a different mood, as a different mood, and it's something that you can't avoid. Not in Spanish, not in French, not in Italian, not in Portuguese. You can't avoid it. And you can't change it the way we do. Instead of saying if I were you, you say if I was you, because you think it's the past. Or you can't say I hope that he is a good king versus I hope he be a good king. Now you can in English, because as you know there's no Academy of the English Language, so after a while it changes, and so many people, and then generation after generation say if I hope that he is, and it's acceptable. So maybe 2 generations ago it wouldn't have been acceptable, and now it is. The subjunctive in Spanish is used for a number of different reasons. Many of the reasons are the same reasons that we use a subjunctive, or at least used to use a subjunctive, because the idea is still there. It's just that the grammar now isn't there as much. Okay, now first let me tell you the verb. First let me tell you when you use the subjunctive. Basically speaking, especially if you're talking about the present subjunctive, you use it when you want someone to do something. Okay, and it's a different sentence structure than we use in English. Okay, so if I say in English, I want you to call me, that's a very different structure, a structure that doesn't really exist in Spanish. Okay, and the first verb is I want. The first verb agrees with the subject, I. Then you have the object, what do you want? Okay, I want you to call me. So you have a direct, let me see, is that yeah, I think you have a direct and indirect object, but most important, the second verb is in the infinitive, to call. Right? The sentence structure in Spanish would be more, I want that you call me. And at one time in English, you don't say it like that. You can, but that's a very unusual construction. But it would be, I want that he, now listen to me, call me. I want that he call me. Now, I can't necessarily advise someone to do that in English anymore, because most people would think, that person doesn't know that he, she, and it ends in S. But at one time that would be correct, because the subjunctive in English used to be the simple form of the verb for all the verbs. So it would be, so let's look at it. You have the verb to call. When you have the to and you have the call, to call, that's called the infinitive. That's usually the form of the verb before it's been conjugated. So you talk about the verb to call, to eat, to sleep, to do whatever. To. When you remove the to and you just have the verb call, eat, sleep, I'm talking about the present tense now, that's called the simple form of the verb. I'm not talking about adding any S, just the verb after you remove the to. So when you have to call, the simple form would be call. When you have to eat, the simple form would be eat. So I want that you eat everything. I want that he eat everything. Like I said, now it'd be very dicey to put I want that he eat everything, because unless you're aware that subjunctive, most people would think that the sentence was incorrect, and that the sentence should be I want that he eats everything, because the subjunctive is almost dead in English. But in Spanish, if you want someone to do something, yo quiero que él coma todo. Coma. Yo quiero que me hable. Coma. Hable. Now, here it is in a nutshell. I'm afraid I might have to go over to another video in order to give it more detail. When you're speaking in the subjunctive, once again I'm talking about regular verbs. When you're speaking in the subjunctive, the verb that's in the subjunctive, if the verb ends in an AR, such as hablar, in the subjunctive it takes the ER endings. If the verb ends in ER, in the subjunctive the verb takes the AR endings. The IR verb takes the AR endings. So normally it would be él habla, él habla español. Pero yo quiero, so I'm saying I want que hable, so quiero que hable, the ending of the AR verb changes from the AR ending to the ER ending, and that's why it's quiero que hable español. Problem isn't structure so much as when to use the subjunctive in Spanish. In future videos, we're going to talk about when to use the subjunctive in Spanish. It opens up the language to you. It allows you to see things in the language rather than to see Spanish only through English eyes. Corrala Ficklin at corralaficklin.com.